Oh, I'm exhausted. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to MaffmanJones Movie Reviews. I'm your host, John Maffio, and today's featured movie is the sequel to a movie called The Raid. It's called The Raid, what do you think? 2. And it still stars the same guy. His name is Iko Uwais? Iko Uwais. I'm gonna call him Iko. Iko? This is not my forte, obviously. The film is also taken under the same directorial helm from Gareth Evans, who directed the first movie. And the first movie, if you haven't seen that one, is a very simple action movie. It was really good, great choreography, and now our main character is in more trouble. The stakes are raised, his family's in danger. So basically, he's forced into this insurmountable situation where he has to go undercover and investigate this thing going on between a son, a father, a corporation, and an imminent war because no blood has been shed for over 10 years between these two families. So things are about to get intensified. Now, even though The Raid 2 is more complex plot-wise than the original movie, and it's also clocking in at 2.5 hours, and before you have second thoughts because a 2.5 hour action movie might be jarring to y'all, let me tell you, highly recommend that you go see it because it's fantastic. It's 2.5 hours, but it flows very greatly. The story doesn't get in the way, and I'm going to explain a little bit more, but this is definitely one of the best efforts I've seen of this year so far. Also important to note, this was shot in Indonesia if I'm correct, and there's subtitles. It's a foreign action movie, but it doesn't deter from the actual film at all because the dialogue and the story are engaging. The characters, aside from our main character from the first movie, are actually characters that feel fleshed out and relatable. We can actually get invested with the side characters and the plot surrounding them. In the first film, there was more emphasis on the action rather than the story because there really was no story. In this one, there is an actual story, and it complements well with the action that creates quite an awesome experience that is film nirvana for action fans. It is insane how many times I was going, ooh, ah, ow. Every time somebody's limb gets broken, every time somebody gets a piece of glass shard into their throat, every time somebody gets choked out, every time somebody gets a baseball bat thrown at their face, you feel the impact, and it hurts like hell. This movie has quite an intense workout, and you almost feel like you're working out yourself watching the movie, in a good way, because you walk out feeling sore. Mentally. It's just really unbelievably surreal how while I was watching this, I felt the influence from the directing from other action movies, American and foreign, before it. I went off the railroad a little bit there, but what I was saying was the story is actually interesting in this movie, and it's not prolonging the action, it actually complements it. The journey as a whole is fulfilling, rather than just an aspect of it, the fighting. But the fighting, which I'm about to get into right now, is, in a way, the same as the first Raid, but also amplified. The action sequences in this movie, which make up the awesomeness of The Raid 2, could not have been fulfilled without two key components. 1, the directing, and 2, the editing. The overall directing by Gareth Evans is spectacular. You actually feel invested in what's going on screen, so you're holding your breath during every action scene. Every time an action scene stopped or slowed down, I had to check my pulse, and I realized that I was in this weird position because my legs were like up in the air. And the editing, because without a good editor, this film would have felt extremely choppy, it wouldn't have worked, the whole thing would have fell apart. But story and action together, and the editing component, were executed greatly. You start off with your waves of enemies that get tougher and tougher from level to level, and then towards the end, you start fighting even tougher enemies. Most of the enemies are mindless drones that are killed or defeated with a couple punches, but it's still really enjoyable to perform. And then at the end, you get to these bosses that you've been building up to for the entire thing, and then the bosses are just batshit insane. So, using that video game analogy, that's exactly how The Raid 2 feels like. It all feels so real and grounded, but also satisfying. Every time our main character defeated an enemy, it's like a sigh of relief that he's continuing. When he actually has the confrontations with the real baddies, like the bosses of this movie, those sequences of action are filmed, choreographed, and everything so well that it almost made me shit my pants. I almost pooped. I almost right out. But not just that, the involvement, the intrinsic details within the actual fighting sequences are very, very extraordinary. You have hand-to-hand combat. They have people using just about anything that you could see in a room. Like if they're in a kitchen, they'll grab a knife, they'll grab alcohol, they'll grab vegetables, they'll use the stove to burn their enemies. Then you have your classic shotguns and pistols, your armored warfare. But that's actually pretty non-existent for the most of the movie. It is violent, it is brutal, and there's a lot of blood. No CGI blood, by the way, it's all real. Thank God. So, having said all that I just said, The Raid 2 is one of the best cinematic efforts I've seen on screen this year so far, and probably will be for the rest of the year. It left me breathless. I love this movie. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's mafadociously darn good. Go see this movie if you get the chance. Turning the tables to you guys. Pressure's on you. What did you think of The Raid 2? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. Please subscribe to my channel, like the video, so you'll never ever miss a review from me again, or a video in general, because I don't just make reviews. I'm diverse. Check out Facebook, Twitter, and We Live Film in the info box. I'm John Maffio, aka MaffmanJones, and I'll see you guys next time. Doing something different here. Wah!